Hello there and welcome. This is Matt Leonard Live, and I'd like to introduce you, Louis Fitzjohn, the creator of Hyperflight. Nice to meet you here and nice to introduce you here. So I hope you can see me, you can hear me.
Yes.
Is the audio quality good?
Yes.
Yes, we can see you perfectly, we can hear you perfectly. You are the creator of the Hyperflight, a new PC game. What a pleasure to introduce you and your game today here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Matthias.
So we will talk about the game, about the creation of a game, about the philosophy of a game, and so many more. And yes, where do we want to start? What is Hyperflight? Let's start first with describing this Hyperflight.
Well, Hyperflight is a sort of science fiction flight simulator and racing game. And it's a game that rewards good piloting, essentially.
Okay.
That's my elevator pitch, at least. I made the game using Unity on my own. It's my second computer game that I've made, and it's taken me a few years. I've been working on the project for about 4 years, but the last 2 years I've been working on it pretty much full time, very, very intensively. Yeah, it's
now it's nearly ready.
It's nearly ready.
Oh, it is ready.
It's ready to be released on early access,
okay.
Which means it's in a good playable state, and there's quite a lot of the game that is playable. There's quite a few hours of gameplay in there already. But over the coming year, I hope to keep developing on it. I plan to keep developing it. And yeah, adding more features and expanding the project. And
with every other artwork, something like this is never ready. This can grow, this can expand. When we use the software, there's the version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and this is an ongoing process. It might be the same with this game, or not?
That's true, yeah. At the moment, I'm on version 0.8.4, and I plan for version 1.0 to be out in a year's time. But after then, I do imagine that I will continue, like you say, to version 1.1, 1.2. Yeah, artwork is potentially never finished. It's true.
So you made this game, you made another game before. This was your second game.
Yes.
What was the first game?
Do
you want to talk about this?
Well, I'm slightly embarrassed about my first game. It was called Super Cube Smash. It is called Super Cube Smash.
Good name.
Thanks. And yes, that's well, I don't really know what to say about that game.
Okay, it's over. It's over. So now we talk about the Hyperflight.
Okay. Yeah.
Why did you decide to make this? What was the idea to create Hyperflight?
Well, I suppose that answer to that is a fairly long story, but I could put it sort of briefly. I was always interested in modifying computer games, right back from the days of a game called ZZT, although I believe it's called ZZT because it's American. But I'm English, so I say ZZT. And it was an old DOS game back in the late 80s. And I used to make levels for that game and put little characters in and text for people to read and little challenges for them. And I'd get my friends to play that game. And then I moved on to making levels for Doom, and then using the build editor and the build engine, I would make levels in 3D for games like Duke Nukem 3D and Blood and Shadow Warrior. And then I went on to make Quake levels with a program called GTK Radiant. And then I moved into using Unreal, and it was all just work that I did for fun, like ever since I was young. And it took me a long time for me to realize or to admit to myself that this might actually be my calling, like the thing that I really should be doing as an artist.
Good. The calling is always good. Yeah.
So Super Cube Smash was really my first full computer game that wasn't a mod of another game, and it was really a case of learning how to do it as I went along. And I remember there was a time a few years ago, back in 2013, something like that. I was working as a care worker, and I would sometimes sit with a little book and draw ideas down, because sometimes when you're caring for people, you have to attend, but you shouldn't really be paying attention to them all the time, because you can get annoying, you know. So sometimes people will sort of read a book, or, you know, sort of be present but not sort of overbearing. And my solution for that situation was to sort of write in this little book. And there was a point where I had this epiphany, where I realized that all of the skills that I had been developing throughout my life, in music and sound design, and in the 3D design, and in programming, although that was a sort of a weaker point at the time, and in digital arts and things, all of these, I'd created this skill stack, and I realized, like, I could build a game, like I could do this now. And I remember feeling like such kind of opportunity, that it was like all I really had to do was decide that I was capable of that, and that I was up for doing that. So that's how that began. And after building Cube Smash, Hyperflight was a game that came about really because I wanted to play it, and there wasn't another game out there that was similar in the ways that I liked. Back when I was young, people would play computer games in the arcade, where they would have to put money in, you know, every time they lose a life they have to put in like 50p or something. And so the games developers, they wanted you to lose, basically, so that you put more money in. And then over time I saw games become more like games that are played at home, and then people would make comments to the developers saying, "Oh, change it this way, change it that way." And slowly I saw games develop into something where the developers of the game wanted you to win, so that you'd have a good time, or that you wouldn't complain. And I sort of, well, but I found that both were kind of dissatisfying to me in a certain way, and I wanted to create a sort of blend of both. A game that is sort of kind to you, but is also punishing at times. It's sort of firm but fair.
Tell me a little about the process of creating. You're sitting alone on the computer for years, for months, yes. And what's happened? What is the fun of programming? What are the problems of programming? Well,
when I was younger, I used to use a desktop PC, because that was all that was available that had sufficient power to be able to do this. But nowadays, fortunately, I can use a laptop, and this laptop has plenty of power, is more than capable. So nowadays I can get out more as I do my work. I can work whilst I'm on the move, and that really has made a huge difference. I saw once somewhere a guide to being unhappy, and the first rule was to do everything in the same place. So like work, eat, sleep, everything, do it all in the same place, you know. And I realized one day, like, yeah, that I'm getting dangerously close to doing that. So that was
isolated in your working capsule, no?
Yes.
Submarine, working submarine.
Yeah, but I do make a point of trying to change my scenery to change my surroundings whilst I'm working. I go for walks and things. I play music in a couple of different acts as well. That gets me out and around, and we tour around Europe and things.
What instruments you're playing?
At the moment, I play bass guitar in one band, and in the other band I play a sort of collection of unusual synthesizer instruments. And I
keyboard
sing.
and string, and keyboard and string. So all the musicians are very creative people. So we have found another genius here.
Thank you. Yeah, music was actually my main kind of focus when I was young. And I always kind of assumed that music was my calling, and maybe that was due to other people's responses, that they would say, oh, it's great that you're following your passion, you're doing the thing that you love. And although I love music, I always had a sense that it wasn't exactly my main focus, you know. And it really took me a long time to discover that games design was the thing. And the thing that I really love about the whole medium of games design is that it is an all-encompassing sort of medium. It incorporates visual art and video. It encompasses animation and 3D modeling and 3D animation and music and sound, and it's interactive. So to me, it's just a wonderful artistic medium that's never existed before. And there's such opportunity in that.
This is completely right, because you're composing with pictures, with sound, and as you said, it's interactive. So you can even make your own game the way you go in this direction or this direction. You can even change the outcome of the game. What are we seeing now?
This is one of the training challenges on Orcus. This next one is the final stage on Venus, which is still under construction. This is a race occurring on Orcus, which is the next planet out from Pluto. This is Mars, a long endurance racetrack on Mars, which has been partially colonized in this scientific sci-fi future world. That's the main screen, indeed, yeah. And that's actually on Titan, that shot. And here's another shot of Mars racing against AI opponents, computer-controlled opponents. And yeah, this is from the cockpit view, this shot.
So we are on other planets.
We are. Yeah, the game is based on real planets within our solar system.
Interesting.
And the game contains itself a solar system map, which includes every planetary body and moon that's larger than Deimos, which is the smallest named moon.
Okay.
And they're all placed in order. Yeah, I started making a menu of the selectable planets, and then I just thought, well, why not put in all the planets, and why not put in the moons? And the more I added, the more I felt like it just helped improve the whole experience, made it somewhat educational as well. That's a shot of Triton, which is a very cold planet. So
it seems icy,
snowy,
yeah.
windy. It is, yeah. Yeah, that's a boosting ring, that hexagonal thing. You fly
seems
through.
like lava.
And this is Titan. I recently put up those flags and the bunting to make it seem more like a celebration, an event. And yeah, the sci-fi concept that I had at the beginning of this game was I was imagining a faster than light communication method where you could have a live video feed from another planet, which isn't possible at the moment because of the speed of light barrier that we may always have. But it occurred to me, you know, if we did develop that kind of technology, then we could fly sort of remote control vehicles around on other planets, and that there might be a kind of sport that develops from that, a kind of drone racing. That's the solar system map there.
Here we have the planets, yes.
And that's a vehicle select screen, and there are different types of each vehicle, different body types.
Interesting. Red Planet.
That's a collectible item on one of the planets. It's inside a kind of rotating cube, and that's a challenge where you have to avoid moving objects, and you have to fly in and out of the cubes and collect those red orbs.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Very challenging.
Yes. And yeah, so you collect licenses in the game by doing certain training challenges, and then you use those licenses to enter races, and then you can win the races and unlock more vehicles. So that's something I enjoyed about modern games, is the unlocking system, that you get rewards, you get sort of real rewards for achieving things.
Beautiful. This seems, I think this game will become a drug. Are you already addicted to it?
I believe I am. I appear to be playing it
for
quite
sure
a
you
lot.
are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you say a drug. I mean, there could be a very good case made for the similarities between games and drugs. I mean, after all, our brain is administering chemicals to us, chemicals like dopamine and serotonin and things that keep us engaged and keep us focused. And I feel a sort of responsibility for that. I don't just want to create a game that is addictive, that people want to play for the sake of it. I do think it's important to have a game that is engaging and people want to continue to play, but I also think that there should be some benefit in playing the game. And
exactly.
In my case, it's about learning to control these vehicles, learning how to fly, basically, and developing your own skills. And the game itself, once you know how to fly very well, you can fly through the game quite effortlessly. But to begin with, when you're sort of finding your feet and you're learning to fly, it could take you quite a long time to make progress.
Flight simulator, no?
Basically,
first you learn to fly, and then when you know how to fly, then you can have fun.
Yes. Well, and hopefully the process of learning to fly can be fun and engaging too.
Exactly. So
yeah, well,
I think playing a game might be an addiction, but creating a game might also be an addiction, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, creating generally has been an addiction of mine since I was very young. In fact, I'm just thinking now that recalling myself as a small child of about 7 years old, I used to make Lego models of little sort of flying vehicles
creative.
that are very similar to the ones that were in Hyperflight. And yeah, I used to like make these models and put them up on the mantelpiece and say, hey.
So now you got to the next level. First you made these Lego cars, and now you get to the next level with modern computer technology, and you
get to control them, get to fly them.
Exactly. And let's wait what comes next. Probably in the future we'll make them that we can fly to other planets. We never know.
Never know. Yeah.
Really. So as you said, creation is an addiction. It really is. And this goes for all parts of our lives. That means there is a good philosophy in your way of creating this game or all the other stuff.
Well, indeed. Personally, I believe that one's personal philosophy is at the very center of everything that a person creates, and that it will affect what you create as an artist in the most profound and wonderful way. It's essential, and I've put a lot of work into trying to develop my own personal philosophy, not only as a creative person, but also as a business person. And yeah, it's very important, not only for that reason, but also for the reason of being able to enjoy one's own company. Um, because if you are an artist and you're working on a project for a long amount of time, the only thing that's guaranteed is that you are going to be in your own company for a long time. And if you don't get along with yourself very well, then inevitably a person will think, oh, I'm not into this anymore, this isn't right for me. So it's been very important for me to be able to accept myself, accept all the facets of myself, so that I can sit on my own and work on something and feel good. You know, it hasn't been easy to get to this place. I've had to eradicate a lot of negativity, but not just eradicate, but also learn the lessons that that negative emotions have to teach. It's very important, you know, to incorporate all the different aspects of your soul, of yourself. I sort of imagine like those kind of they're trying to think of the name of it. There's a kind of TV trope of the like combining mecha, I think it is what they call it. Like in Transformers, you know, you have like the yellow robot becomes the arm, and the green robot becomes that arm, and the red one becomes the leg, and this sort of thing. And it sort of feels for me like making sure that no part of myself gets left behind, and that every asset of myself is included and respected, and that was really the thing that led to me being able to work on a project like this for so long.
And as you said before, we have to love our company. We have to love what we are doing, because when we love what we do, we put all our inspiration in it. Yes. And when we put the inspiration in it, this product becomes inspirational, and then it can inspire other people, and then they will have fun with it, and people smell that this thing is good. They touch that there's something behind this. They feel this soul that you like, that you really put like a stamp on it, no? While creating it.
Yes, it's interesting you use that word smell. I do think of it that way too. Although I sort of think the opposite, that if somebody's been creating something in a begrudging sort of way, or they've been hurrying, or they've been forced to do something, that in the end people will see the result of that labor, and they will get that bad smell.
Exactly. Could be a good smell, could be a bad smell.
Exactly. And yeah, I've done some study into the sort of habits of the wealthy as a sort of personal study, and I noticed that not just the wealthy, but the successful and the prolific. But I notice amongst these people that they tend not to keep to-do lists. They tend instead to keep calendars, and it's not just about sort of what you want to happen. It's about being specific about what you want and when you're going to do it, you know, and allocating time to do that. But having said that, I do also keep a to-do list for my game, and in my calendar I'll allocate some time to work on the game, but then I'll sort of defer to the to-do list. So then that way I have a list of things to do, and I can work on the things that I want to do. So I do want to be specific with my time and productivity, but at the same time I want to be loose enough with myself so that if one day I don't feel like making music, it's okay. I can work on something else, an option menu, or I can work on creating the world or something. And that way it means that every kind of piece of the game that I've created, I've been into at the time, you know, and in a broad sense I feel like that is very important, because at the end I hope to convey that sense that this is something that's been made with love, and it's not come from a place of any kind of cynicism or any kind of, you know, it's come from a place of joy.
Exactly. So what about looking quickly at this small clip that you produced, that we even can find on your website? Let me get it here, that we can see the game in action. We already saw some pictures, but now we get into the real Hyperflight. So if you want to mention something to it, you can.
Okay, sure. Well, yeah, this is the scenes are changing so quickly. We've just seen Titan and Venus and Triton and Mars.
Icy planet.
This very windy planet as well, going to contain some difficult challenges. That's the solar system map there, and contains all of the planets there. And here is the vehicle select screen.
Can change the vehicles. Interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, these are the rotating cubes I was talking about before. This is one of the challenges to get your advanced license. So the snowy planet and this planet here are the two planets that are still under construction. They don't have challenges in them yet. They're just a sort of free flight kind of situation.
Try not to crash. Oh,
indeed.
And he crashed.
Yeah. The ships themselves are made of various different parts, and like the engines are attached on the sides and they can fall off. And the game itself utilizes the NVIDIA physics engine. So essentially these are simulations of vehicles that would actually fly. They control in the same way that quadcopters control, only instead of having rotating propellers, they have sort of jet boosters. And there are 4 jet boosters that point straight down and one on the back that boosts you forwards. So if you knock one of your engines off, you do still stand a chance if you're a very good pilot, but yeah, your chances are greatly reduced at that point.
It seems like cars, but you said these are spaceships, no?
Well, I suppose they're kind of interplanetary racing vehicles.
Yes, yes. A new version of traveling. Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about when you are already addicted to this game. How can you get this? Where do you get this?
Well, it's available on Steam. It will be available on Steam on the 24th, which is in 5 days' time. The Steam page is ready, and yeah,
good.
I've submitted the build for that. So at the moment, that's the only place that it's available. Although when version 1.0 comes out, I will make it available on other stores. But yeah, you can visit hyperflight.net, and there's a development blog there, and that's where I'll keep all the information about where to get hold of it.
You talked about the early access. So
yes,
you get it from the 24th of April. This is the early access.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you can buy a copy of the game at a reduced price before it's version 1, and then when version 1 comes out, you get the full version for free. You'll get all the future updates. I don't plan on making downloadable content for the game for purchase. Okay, if you've bought the game, then you'll get access to all the features from now to any point in the future. Yeah.
You already have. Yes, you.
Go on.
You already have new projects, new games in your mind that will be waiting to come to creation?
I do, actually. It's not something that I have fully articulated in my mind yet, but I have a kind of distant dream of something greater than what I'm doing now. Basically, I want to create a leveling up system for a character, similar to the kinds of leveling up systems that you get in role-playing games. Only I want to create a leveling system that is a reflection of our understanding of the development of a human being in a very accurate way. So a leveling system for a character that's based on developmental psychology and also other theories of mind, like Zen Buddhism and integral theory, things like this, so that a person can create characters within a role-play game, and they could learn things about themselves and about other people, why people act in such strange ways. But as I say, it's a sort of distant dream at the moment. I'm not sure what form that's going to take exactly. And I plan to be working on Hyperflight for at least another year, maybe longer. So that dream won't be realized for quite some time yet.
And probably with all the feedbacks that you reach when people play this game, you will get a lot of feedback, and this will bring a new input that might even change the game for the future.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And that's part of the reason for putting the game out on early access now, is so that I can get feedback from the community.
Exactly.
I mean, not just to tell me what's wrong with the game, although that would be very helpful, but also to make suggestions.
There might come new ideas, possibilities that you didn't even think of.
Exactly.
But when you say, oh, people like this, and I never thought about this, and then you can create something new. There will be people that don't like this, but there are people that are so in love with this game, and other people bring you new possibilities, and all this is also a form of interaction that should be part of creating a game. This was very clever to make it to bring it in early access, and then to build the game with the community together.
Yes, yeah. It sounds very exciting to me. There's a potential there that somebody in the future might suggest something that's very easy for me to implement that I just never considered, that brings a whole new lease of life into the experience.
Exactly.
It's
and
very possible.
All the big companies are already waiting to buy your product, to buy your game.
Well, some of them are.
Some of them are. But first you want to have the fun on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else do you want to mention as we are together now in this virtual room? What did we forget? What else do you want to mention?
Well, I suppose the urges I'm having now, whilst I'm talking to potentially the public, to anybody, I suppose I'd like to give some words of encouragement and perhaps advice to anybody out there who's engaging in a personal project of their own. You're not wasting your time, and maybe that's an obvious thing, but I really think that the thing that you were into as a child, or the subjects that you liked at school, those were really the things that you wanted to do. And then at some point in our lives, we have to get a job, and we have to pay bills and things, and we get distracted by the world. And they're not always bad distractions, they can be very good distractions. But in my mind, I think the most valuable work that people do is that work that's focused on that thing that they loved as a child and as they were growing up. And I would advise people to continue on those pursuits, and that every piece of work that a person makes is a step on a journey, and it's a journey to a destination that only you will, as an individual, will arrive at. And it doesn't matter if you're not always walking down that path, and in fact it doesn't even matter if you take some steps backwards from time to time, but what's important is that you're facing in that direction and you're moving forward in that way. Let me think.
Beautiful.
Well,
Yes,
thank
beautiful.
you. I suppose I'm talking about thinking positively, but not thinking positivity, but thinking positively. I suppose what I mean by that is not to think simply positive, good feelings, but to think about what it is that you want, what it is that you want to do, as opposed to what it is you don't want, or what you don't want to do. And there's a big difference between those things. And I spent a lot of my life trying to avoid things and concentrating on, oh, I don't like it when this person does that, I don't like this job, I don't like being here. And you'll only get so far in life if you do that. But as soon as I started thinking, okay, let's try and solve these problems by being entirely positive in thought and saying, okay, then what will I do about this? You know, when's this going to happen? What's actually going to happen? Or when communicating with someone, instead of saying, oh, I don't like it when you do this, you could say, you know, I would appreciate this, right? And to just make suggestions instead. Yeah, I think that there are many mental traps that we can fall into as people, and I'm still falling into them now. I may have even tripped into one today, as a matter of fact. But one of the traps that I had fallen into in the past was that I used to suffer from a lot of depression, and I say that because I want people to know that it's not. I don't want people to think that I'm some kind of special person that's like an exception.
Nobody is.
Indeed.
No, yeah, nobody is.
And I've had to go through, I've had to overcome hard things within myself in order to be able to do this, and other people can do that too. I think the trap of cynicism within depression is to sort of convince yourself that you're in a kind of hell when you're actually not. You're on Earth, and sure, hellish things happen on Earth, but a whole lot of other great, wonderful things happen too.
True, yes.
And I think to be able to think in that sort of constructive and positive way is key to the artist. And I think that doing artwork is more important than most people realize. It's not just about cathartically making pictures or music because you enjoy it. It's bringing things into focus for everybody else. It's communication, and it has mysterious but great, wonderful effects that I still don't understand. But people find so much joy in other people's artwork that it can't be a bad thing. Anyway, sorry, that's
no. These are wise words from a creator. And even the people from the Stone Age, they were singing and dancing. They embraced nature. They were eating. They were working. They made everything together. And we also should do the same things. We should work. We should have culture. We should sing. We should dance. We should be creative. All this brings the variety of life. And there is a magic behind that we don't even know. And it is still there, and it helps us to enjoy being this party here on planet Earth.
Yes, absolutely. We have to remember to enjoy ourselves, I think.
These are wise words. Wise words from Lewis, the creator of Hyperflight. So when you enjoy Hyperflight, you learn much more than only a PC game. You get a broader perspective. This game will open your mind, and then you don't know what you will do. Be aware what comes together with Hyperflight.
Yeah.
Good. So did we forget something else?
I suppose there was another thing, I guess, that I was going before that. It leads to the idea of planting seeds.
Good.
And that when we make a creation, sometimes that creation proves to be quite a healthy seed that grows into something that we never intended. And I believe that the good seeds are the ones that came from a place of love. I know this sounds sort of cliched and simple.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's the fact.
I really believe that. And that bad seeds that don't grow into much are ones that come from places of more negative feelings, things like cynicism and resentment, pessimism. And one of my friends once, a very wise friend of mine, asked me what it feels like to be wrong. And I said, oh, it feels embarrassing, it feels bad. And he said, well, you just told me what it feels like to find out that you were wrong. And that was the lesson. That being wrong feels exactly the same as being right, and that we have to really examine our motivations at the deepest of levels, because we could have all kinds of positive motivations on higher levels of a concept or an idea or a creation, but at the very bottom could be a seed of some kind of resentment there. But it's like, the reason why I'm doing all of this is because I hate this thing. And then all the other levels above that are like, and we can do this great thing and this great thing, and we love these people and we love this. And we can get caught up in these higher levels and convince ourselves that what we're doing is good, but also at the same time neglect this fundamental at the bottom, at the base of everything. And so for me, it's important to really examine all levels of your motivations. Why am I doing this thing? Like, what even is it, and where is it coming from? And not all of the levels will be positive. There might be some negative ones up here. They might be like, oh, I'll do this better than that person, and I'm gonna put these people out of business or something. There could be some like pretty nasty things up here. But if at the bottom you've got, I love something, or I want to help, that's where it's at for me, and that's what I would try to encourage in others, is to examine themselves and what they're doing. Really take a close look at that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, you are right. You are right. So we can think about these thoughts, and we don't have to create a PC game.
No.
But this might be a part of it. No? But when we are a creator, we're not only creating the game, we have a broader perspective, and because of this broader perspective, we create this game. So first we have to have the clarity, and then we create the game. We don't make a game only because the game produces itself. No, there's always a being behind, and when there is a game, when there is a creation, there's always a creator behind. We should never forget this. So when you buy this Hyperflight, you know who created this. You know the person. So this was wonderful. Nice to meet you here. Nice to learn more about you, about this creator from Hyperflight. And now I'm also addicted.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to actually speak with you. Because in the past I've just been talking to you over the Twitch streams, and it's wonderful to actually sit and have a conversation with you, Matthias.
It's a pleasure for me. It's a pleasure for me. And
you personally have had a particular part in the continuation of this game. Your words have been, they've been encouraging to me at key times.
Wow!
I've been losing faith, and I've been having doubts, and you've reassured me and encouraged me to continue. So I thank you for that, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. You're trying to encourage growth in people, and it seems like a wonderful thing, and only a good thing to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So this was Lewis Fitzjohn, the creator of Hyperflight. I hope to see you soon, and then you can tell about these realizations, what you were experiencing with this probably 1 year ahead, when you are rich, when you still want to talk with me.
Of course.
And then we can reflect what all happened after 1 year. Might be interesting to see what will happen in 1 year, because 1 year is a lot of time, and today everything is going so quickly, and changes come so quickly, and we never know what will happen in 1 year. So
indeed,
there will magic happen. There will magic happen.
You'll have millions of subscribers to your podcast. You'll be changing the world.
We all will. Look, we are always changing the world. And when you go outside and you talk to another person, and you only give a smile, and you distract this person, we never know what this will cause. You may even delay a person on the road, but because of this delay, this person won't have an accident. We never know what happens. Right. So many things can happen, and magic happens, really. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here, and I see you in 1 year.
All right. Goodbye.
Have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.